So we discussed what's the use of grade levels, what are the pros, what are the cons for it. The next slide I have is for the grade discussion examples. So this is a guideline or a question to us as to do we need grades or do we manage it with profiles? So do you associate ranges or guidelines to jobs? If yes, then are the grades are the grades, bands or levels that define these ranges? Say if yes, then grade band level should be the grade. If it's so, then do do you market price individual jobs? And if yes, then grades on one-on-one basis with job profiles. Coming back to the first question, do you associate ranges or guidelines to jobs? And if we have no, then we can have hourly salary jobs set up in the system. It's just a high-level guideline for you to take a decision as to what do you need to get into the grades and grade profiles for your company. If they are not there, then you might consider doing it. If they are there, how do you manage them? Let me get to the tenant. Do you have a job profile that you use for both kind of staffing models? So, for example, if I look at management level hierarchy, and if I see here I have 7 levels of management or 8 levels of management level. And each management level has a specific set of job profiles that can be used with that management level. So whenever I'm creating a job profile, when we have a management level hierarchy setup, I do select a management level while creating the job profile. And here's a summary report for the management level. Uh, how many employees do I have with their gender and board of directors and chief executive and EVPs and vice president, their average age and the total number of employees on this tenant. So this can give you a fair idea as to how your population is set up within your company based on the management level. And if I look at this compensation grade profile report, I can see all the grades that are created on this tenant or that are available on this tenant. For example, if I open this grade, I can see the grade name, the base pay element, eligibility rules, currency, frequency, the pay ranges for this grade, and the segment steps. Now, where does grade come in really, really handy? For example, if we have an office in, say, Houston, and if we have an office in, say, California or New York, being in the United States as well, these two states may have different job pay or pay profiles. For example, California might be more expensive to live than in Houston, so my salary ranges would differ for California as compared to Texas. An average salary for say Chicago could be minimum 50,000, mid could be 60,000, max could be 70,000, but in New York it could be 55, 66, and 77,000. So we can set up our grade profile based on locations. It could be in the same country or it could be different countries as well. Now let's see how to create jobs and positions for our superfolks that we have created. When creating positions, position is created with the context of a supervisory organization. It has to be created under a superorg. Doesn't matter which kind of uh, job management do we have, but for job management, we do not require to create a position. We don't need to take approvals for job management. But a position is automatically created by the system when hiring somebody in the job management staffing model. But referring to job position management staffing model, you have to create a position within the support. You would need an open position available before you can staff a support if using a position staffing model. By open position, I mean either it's a new position or it's a vacated position or it was a past frozen position which has now been unfrozen. While creating a position, there are a few mandatory fields that you must fill, like position title, number of position, availability date, and earliest hire date. What are hiring restrictions? So in addition to these position title, number of position, availability date, and earliest hire date, you can create restrictions for your positions as well. Restrictions are optional. You can or cannot have them depending on the policy of your company, the process that you follow. So hiring restrictions control how a position or a job management support can be filled. With job management, one set of hiring restrictions for the entire supervisory organization. You can loosen hiring restriction by selecting the override restriction checkbox in edit tenant setup at same task. All right. So let's go to our tenant. So for the executive management, we have hired Rajiv as our CEO and Sam, myself as his executive assistant. If I look at human resources department, I have an HR manager, Ashton Burns, and I have all these positions available that can be filled. But let's create another position today. Let's go to staffing, create position. Staffing project, say director. When we are talking about hiring restrictions, after the earliest hire date, all this section are to apply restrictions for the candidate or the position subject to hire. So if I select no job restrictions, then I don't need to fill out any of these areas and I just mark it as no job restriction. But when I need to apply restrictions, I can do that by going to the job family first, say HR. So I'm restricting that this position can be hired in job family. Then I'm selecting the job profile for this position that I would like to hire on. Location restriction. Say this person can be, say, in New York, or this person can be in my Houston office as well. Time type, I'm restricting this position for a full-time employee. And I would like this to be a regular worker. So now I have applied all these restrictions for this single position. If I need to go further into qualifications, I can add them here as well. The kind of position or the position title that you are creating, the kind of person that you need. Say, for example, you need a senior research analyst for artificial intelligence with experience of 14 years in research. So such kind of person would be difficult to fill. It's marked
Okay.
for job recruiters. This is information for
Okay.
recruiters. So I've submitted this request and it has been approved. And in the next step, we can hire on this employee. Also, let me show you how we can loosen up the restrictions or stricken up the restrictions in for hiring restrictions. So let's go to this task, edit tenant setup HCM. So when I type edit tenant setup, it'll give me all the areas listed here that I can do the configuration for the tenant. So currently we're going to select HCM. So do keep in mind that edit tenant setup, whenever you are doing this, you have to be an elevated user. First thing. Second thing is that these are global settings. So whatever changes we make would be applied to the entire tenant for your organization. Collapse this section for sequence generator. I go to staffing. In here, I have all these options available that I can select on a global level for the tenant. In here, use job profiles, hide former worker, allow override restrictions of staffing events. So if I, as this option is selected, I can uncheck it so it will not be enabled. But if I hover on the thing, it says selecting these options allows restriction on the following fields to be overridden on staffing events such as hire, change of job profile, location, time type, employee, contingent worker. So when we select this, we are giving or enabling the people in our recruiting, in our hiring process, that these restrictions can be manipulated and are changeable. But if I unselect this, then my hiring restrictions would be exactly true to the position when it was created. So nothing can be changed on the position creation. Once it's created, that is how that person is going to be hired upon. We can also set default compensation once the position has created. Here in the hiring restrictions, there's another tab that I just referred to was qualification. So in qualifications, I can set up the skills that are required for this position, education, languages, certifications, work experience, any specific competency that I'm looking for, responsibilities, trainings that the person may have had. These qualifications can also be added to the hiring restrictions as well. Now, as you said that they may need to attach it to their resume or to the in the hiring process. Here, like let me see, surgery association. So what I did was I said certification, country United States, Board of Certified Surgery of America, and it is a required certification. It can be optional that I've added. That okay, it's good to have. When I say required, if the person does not have the certification, this position in the recruiting process or the hiring process would require the certification to be shared with HR. Our field, it would be able to validate. And also in your hiring process, you can look at the position requirements or the restrictions that you have added and make them compulsory. For example, if it needs an attachment, it will go in the onboarding process or in the hiring process that attachments needs to be shared by the workers, pre-hires. So for positions, if we need to have, if you want to add default compensation, we can also do that for the position level as well. This can be edited, the compensation part, during the hiring event as well. How do we navigate to that? We go to position, related action, select compensation, and the request default compensation task would appear. So if I go to the related actions button, either from here or from the support, I go to compensation and request default compensation change. So I use today's date on it. And the workflow for compensation change would fire up. So I can enter the effective date. The total base pay is currently blank, empty. This section is blank as well. So if I go to guidelines, say this is going to be a level, say, management level, compensation package, create by compensation rule, select management. Say I want to use the New York grade profile for this. Also, I can add a baseline proposed salary. So here it will give me the range of the salary based on the compensation plan that we've selected. Say I want to give this person. Again, keep in mind that these are proposed values for the position that you're creating, not the actual hiring as yet. Say if I want to give any kind of allowance. Yes, as per the standard company policy, that for this position, this is the range that we have set up. That is a good question. And yes, when you are hiring that person and their compensation workflow is kicked off after the or during the actual hire, It will go to the relevant responsible people within the organization and it will give them an alert that, okay, this person is higher than the base pay range or lower than the base pay range guidelines. At that moment, that's a notification, and if that line manager or the responsible person may need to change it, they can change it as well. Speaking when things are getting out of range, a pre-discussion has already happened with the relevant people and responsible people for that hire, and they are onboarded. So the tool, the system gives an alert. So I put a base pay range of say 150,000 in the position at creation. Uh, I also added an allowance if I wanted to. I can add an allowance here as well. Select it from the plans, allowance plans that are available. If I need to edit any merit, bonus, stock, commissions, I can add them here as well. And now we have added the compensation basis or the proposed default compensation for this job profile or this position as well. So the plan assignments, guidelines, compensation basis that has been added to this particular position. To include the request default compensation step in the create position or edit position restriction business process. We can do that as well, that for every position that we create, a default, proposed default compensation should fire automatically, the workflow. So if I go back to my tenant and if I look at my business process, create, I can add the proposed default compensation step here as well as default. For example, if I need to do that, we will go into the business process setup and creation and management later down in the course. Request default compensation, and I'm going to send it to say HR partner. And say my due date is going to be for. Now I have in this step I have marked a responsible group of people, which are HR partners, that whenever a position is created, fire the request default compensation for position event business process. So now if I create another position, that is correct. Everybody who is an HR partner related, who has a role assigned as HR partners to this support will only get this, not the entire company, because we assign the roles on the supervisory organization level. And then it further trickles down or inherits to the subordinate organizations as well, based on supports. So if I try to create a position, say now in engineering department, staffing, create position. Director, engineering. I want to have, say, two directors, one for IT and one for software or hardware and software. Yes, I've selected three job profiles for this position. So let's make these three. Now you see that I have the step for requesting default compensation for position event as the next step for creating the position. And here it is showing that it's an in progress action. So if I open this, it will automatically take me to my default compensation change business process. Say management, create by compensation rule, salary plan. Let's say because people in technology get paid higher, so let's select 165,000, and this is annual frequency. And so here now you see it is saying the compensation does not matter compensation grade profile defaulting. Okay, so it's a default grade. So now I have three positions for engineering, director engineering and technology, one, two, three, and we have also added the compensation, default compensation for them as well. I think we already done this part, but at the second point, view job profile. Let's have a look at one of the job profiles here. If I click on edit on this, I can see a summarized view of all the information. Now, job code could be alphabetical, it could be numeric, or it could be alphanumeric as well. See, I would like to have this job title to be default for this job profile, so I can add it here. If I want to restrict this to a country, I can add a country restriction here. Job levels, if I need to select a job level, I can add it here. Category, company insider, the classification, pay rates. And here I can select, say, if I have more than one job grades, I can select them here in my profile. And then the job exemption, compensation code, what are the certifications, competencies, and all these other requirements that I can add